Greetings from the Vardy community in Hancock County, named for the Melungeon patriarch Vardaman Collins, and home to the legendary Melungeon moonshiner Mahala Mullins. Here, visitors can tour Big Haley's log cabin home, where the sheriff charged with bringing her to justice made the famous proclamation, "She's catchable, but she ain't fetchable," in reference to the moonshiner's large size. Big Haley was so large she couldn't pass through the cabin's doors, and upon her death a stone fireplace and chimney had to be dismantled in order to remove her body for burial.
All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jeanette Lambert, and I will be moderating this session entitled The Whole Wide World. I would like to welcome you on behalf of Humanities Tennessee. Special thanks are extended to our key sponsors, Metro Nashville Arts Commission, Ingram Content Group, Tennessee's Arts Commission, Vanderbilt University, and Parnassus Books. Please note that there are links being posted in chat to buy the author's books from Parnassus, which helps to keep the festival free. There will also be a donate button posted if people wish to support the festival. All right. Today we have three authors that are going to be on our panel, and I would like to just give a brief introduction to them before we get started. We have Elizabeth Bunce. Thanks. Elizabeth is a native Midwestern. She writes historical fantasy, mysteries, and ghost stories for young readers. Her books are inspired by real places and cultures of the past, often with otherworldly or magical elements. There is not a time when this author has not been writing. Her only job in life has been as a writer, none more interesting than being a novelist. In 2009, her first book, which was entitled A Curse Dark as Gold, won an inaugural William T. Morris Award for a YA debut. When not writing, you will find her tending to her feline stuff with her husband and making something in needlework, quilting, or historic costuming. Our next author is Court Stevens. Court is a native of Kentucky. She is an adjunct professor and a former youth minister. In addition, she has been an Olympic torchbearer and a bookseller of his books. In Nashville, she is a writer of coming of true fiction and is a community outreach manager for Warren County Public Library in Kentucky. She has a pet well named Hermie, a bandsaw named Rex, and her first book entitled Faking Normal received the Volunteer State Book Award and nominations for the Georgia Peach Award, the Bluegrass Award, and the Elliott Rosewater Indiana State Book Award. Court Stevens. And our final author is Karina Glaser, and she is a New York Times bestselling writer and illustrator. She is the author of the middle grade book, The Vanderbeekers of 141st Street, which was selected as a New York Times notable children's book, as well as a Junior Library Guild selection. In addition, this book has been translated into 14 languages. Now, the Vanderbeekers series include The Vanderbeekers in the Hidden Garden, The Vanderbeekers to the Rescue, and the latest installment, The Vanderbeekers Lost and Found. Karina is a contributing editor for Book Riot, the largest independent book media website in North America. She lives in Harlem with her husband, 2 daughters, and an assortment of rescue animals. All right, well, let's go ahead and start.
We can see one of them right now.
Yeah.
Graceful.
I'll just give her some privacy.
Cat for you. Wait, I can be on camera? Let's have a
Yeah.
All right. Just in no particular order, could you tell us a little, each author, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, other than what I've said? What are some things that this audience should definitely know about you? That's probably the main thing. What is it that the audience should definitely know about? Well, let's go ahead and start with Elizabeth.
Well, because I'm the one giving you the blankest stare.
Yeah, it looked like you were just ready to go.
That's my ready to go look. I'm gonna have to practice that. I guess. I mean, you pretty much covered it. That's my bio. I'm a maker, and I make books. I make needlework. But the other side of me is that I'm a huge research and fact nerd. I love learning new things, and before this display of my own work was behind me, this was my shelf of research books, and well, it was a shelf of research books that had been actually stashed away, but that is one of my passions in life, and what I love. One of the things I love most about being an author, especially of historical fiction, is that I can dive deeply into all kinds of new subjects depending on what I'm writing about, and I don't have to just stick with one area of expertise for my whole life. And so you will find in the Myrtle books are definitely a celebration of that love of weird knowledge and finding new facts.
All right, thanks. Or about you, Court?
Oh man, did I do the blank stare next? Is that what happened?
You look thoughtful. You look
like I don't know. I think kind of threaded into everything I do is kind of this desire for to not stop being curious about people, about the brain in particular, and personalities, and the way we love people. For instance, I'll give you one for instance, and that's probably the best I can do on me. I really, really love people, and I love having an opportunity to show them gratitude. And I was sending out an email yesterday to all of my staff at the coworkers at the Warren County Public Library. And I just kind of went through and thanked each department individually. And I was like, this is this for how awesome you are. And thank. And 4 different people sent me an email afterward and were like, are you quitting? I was like, no, I was thanking people, and I was thinking how crazy it is that we live in a time when we're surprised by generosity and we're surprised by gratitude. And I'm kind of like one of those people that would like to upend that, in whatever I write and the way I am around other authors, and especially the way I'm around students. I've done a lot of school visits in the past, and getting to look a kid in the eye and being like, you matter, I see you, I hear you, your voice, totally important. They're shocked by that. And I'm like, where are the other adults in your life telling you this? So I'm just trying to be a voice like that.
And Karina?
Well, I just wanted to piggyback on what Court said, because when I met her a couple of years ago, we were at Parnassus bookstore, and we were talking about books we love because we both read a lot. And she went to the picture book section and pulled out The Hug Machine. If you haven't read,
go buy it
perfectly relates to her, because she's talking about loving people. And I was thinking about that time I met her, and she was like, "You have to read The Hug Machine." Anyways, about me, well, I mean, like Court and Elizabeth, we love creating, we like putting beautiful things out into the world. I love writing, but I also, like Elizabeth, I enjoy quilting. I love animals. I love baking, like all those things. I feel like when you do those things, you can share that with other people. It's a way of showing love to other people. And yeah, and that's, I hope what I'm doing through my books as well is sharing with readers things that I love, stories of compassion, stories of family, of community. And those are really important things to me.
I think if we can put a book out in the world that tells a kid to be okay with the things that they love, that's incredibly important.
Oh, yeah.
Now, regarding your latest work, the one that been recently published, what were some challenges you faced in writing that particular book, and what were some of the things and messages you wanted to get across in that book?
I mean, Elizabeth, you're bound to go first.
I guess. Yeah. Well, I will say I need to shout out to a challenge for my household first. So the Myrtle Hardcastle Mystery sort of celebrate the early days of forensic science as a discipline, and that meant that for the last 4 years and for the foreseeable future, we have a lot of forensic files on at my house, and it's not really my husband's thing. and so that's been a little source of some tension here sometimes. And I forgot what the rest of the question was.
The challenge. Well, you talked about the challenge.
Yeah.
But so what were the main theme or message that you wanted readers to take away from your latest book?
Well, I think, like I said, so Myrtle, my main character, she's 12 and she knows exactly what she wants to do with her life. She's already set in herself as a person, with her personality. And I was very much like that as a kid. And we read a lot of stories where the main character is still trying to figure out who they are and where they are, what their place is. And those books are absolutely vital, and we need those because there are tons of kids and adults out there that still haven't quite gotten a handle on what it is that they're really passionate about. But I specifically wanted to speak to those kids who may feel a little bit off kilter with their peers because they know who they are and what they want, even if it's out of step with what their friends want, what their fellow 12-year-olds want, what their parents think they ought to want. And so that's one of the things that I wanted to speak to with Myrtle, having a main character who was passionate and driven and full steam ahead following her dreams. Was
definitely full steam ahead, and she was let's put it like she was pretty assertive. She
is so much more assertive than I am.
Mm-hmm. Yes, most of the time people have this image of females back in that period of time, the 1890s, as being reserved or this type of thing, but she was definitely not that. Maybe you might want to explain what Myrtle, for those who may not be familiar with Myrtle.
So it's 1893 in England, and Myrtle Hardcastle. So here's the cover of book one, Premeditated Myrtle, and a fantastic Brett Hellquist cover. Myrtle is a young lady of quality. She is a middle-class girl being taught at home by her governess. Her father is the prosecuting solicitor in their small English village, and her mother was a medical student, and so she's had sort of this was born into a household that was smart and interested and passionate. And she's currently being sort of raised and mentored by her governess, Miss Judson. And she is obsessed with new sciences of criminology. And so she's keeping abreast of developments in fingerprinting and toxicology. And she has this dream of joining Scotland Yard when she grows up, or if that doesn't work out, moving to America and becoming a Pinkerton. And when her neighbor dies under mysterious circumstances, she seizes her chance to investigate this mysterious death. And it flies in the face of everything her father is hoping for, raising this equality in 1890s England.
Okay. All right then. All right, Court.
Oh, challenges on writing. Well, my latest, the June Boys. I'm just gonna go out there and say writing. Seems to be the hard part.
Same.
And I think really too, being several books in, and I know everybody here is, like, that challenge that you have with yourself of like how to make sure you're getting better. And knowing how, like, are you growing? Are you becoming who you want to be as an artist? Can you look at the last thing you did and look at this thing and say, oh, like these characters are better, or this plot line is better? And for me, like, I swapped from writing like pretty true contemporary novels and what I normally call coming of truth novels to writing mystery. And that's a much bigger swap. I've always been a plotter, but figuring out how to seed those twists and turns in, knowing enough of them from the beginning that you interlace and weave them correctly, along with developing characters. I've always written really character-driven things, and this was much more plot-driven. And so there was a learning curve for me that I'm still straddling and still learning, and I'm excited to see the growth in myself in the next book that I put out. And so I don't know. I think that's probably the primary writing one. And the primary takeaways, I'm in an unusual situation here because there are certainly, I do middle school visits all the time, but it would be for students who are reading up. We know students love to do that. Mostly it's, I normally say 12 and up is my age. So if you got a character that's starting at 12, I got a character that's a little bit older than that. And it's difficult life. I write about the hard things in life, and I've always done that. I have a background in psychology and a master's in counseling. And what I've noticed about the world on the whole is none of us are prepared to be the age somebody is asking us to be. And the world is often unfair. And in particular, this book deals with what captivity looks like, and whether that's being actually held captive in some way, or if just like your small town makes you feel captive, or an idea can make you feel captive, or your parents can make you feel small, or your adults in your life, or your friends in your life. And like, what do we do in the midst of these times when we have to figure our own way out? And I see that every day in, young kids in my library job that are just like, they're doing it. They're doing it every day. Like, no kidding. I was out this past week and a half at an apartment complex working with internet deserts. And there's this amazing little group of kids out there, and they're playing jump rope, but with a fly trap.
Wow.
Yeah. And and that's sad. And it's also kick-ass. Those kids, they are finding a way to enjoy and love their lives and their circumstances, regardless of what they have or don't have. And I think we could all kind of grab onto that kind of thing. Of course, I went and got him a jump rope because I'm like, it's a fly trap, guys. It's a fly trap. But yeah, no, I'm interested in like those margins and the places we can all step up and find this bravery and courage to live where we are, and then to step forward, maybe out of where we are if we can.
Oh, all right, then, great. One thing I did notice about your book, you were talking about it was plot driven. Um, when you were talking about mysteries, I just think for the clarification of the audience, the kind of plot wasn't a crime does take place, but
Mhm.
it's not like a murder or a robbery or initially. Um, give the audience some insight into what kind of crime we're talking about here.
Oh, okay. Well, it is about the June Boys is about a serial kidnapper who takes boys from Tennessee on June 1st and then returns them the following June, keeps them for a year, and returns them the following June 1st. And that kidnapper is known in the media as the Gemini thief. So it always happens in June. And the main character is after her cousin is taken, she's convinced or is wondering if her father might be the Gemini thief.
Hmm.
We're not gonna say anything else right now. I can give it away. Karina.
Oh, okay. Well, that just gave me like chills. All right. So my latest book is called The Vanderbeekers Lost and Found. It's the fourth book in the series, and I have to say, this was the easiest book for me to write out of the four books. And I think the reason why was because when I wrote this book, which is how the whole series starts, it's the story of 5 kids that live in Harlem, and they get into all these different types of scrapes and are dealing with, in this book, eviction, and the following books, different issues. But I think this fourth book, because it sort of was a book that I had in my mind since the very beginning when I was writing about the Vanderbeekers. And originally I thought the series was going to be 4 books. So in my mind, like this arc that had started with book 1 would end with book 4. And so when I got to book 4, it felt like I had been thinking about it for all these years. So I was surprised at how easy it was to write. And then I actually have to write a few more in the series. So the 5th book was the worst to write, I think, because I hadn't been thinking about it as much. But in The Vanderbeekers Lost and Found, it deals with 3 different topics. One is homelessness, and that's something that has always been really close to my heart. Right after college, I worked for many years at a series of family homeless shelters, and specifically my interests were in literacy. And as we know, when you're homeless, you're dealing with so many different things already, and oftentimes kids are way behind in reading because they're dealing with a lot of other issues. So one of my focuses was literacy and working one-on-one with kids in after-school literacy programs. So when I had that experience of working in those shelters, it gave me just an insight that I didn't have before into what someone's life could be, and I think about that all the time. Actually, a book that I'm working on right now, which is not related to the Vanderbeekers, is also about homelessness. And the latest Vanderbeekers book that came out deals with that issue, and how I think we all try to help in certain ways, and how sometimes we don't know how to help, or we help in the wrong way sometimes, which is also hard to figure out what to do in certain situations that feel very difficult when you're not the person in that situation. So what I hope readers will take away is that it's important to listen. It's important to be a good friend. There are lots of ways to do that. And I hope it, creates some conversation.
Okay. Also, in your in the Vanderbeekers, and throughout all of it, it's just a strong sense of community.
Mm.
Very strong sense of community in all those books. In Lost and Found, what I found out with the Vanderbeekers is that they they address that issue of homelessness, but they also think in terms of what they can do to help people in the community that they may not be that very close to, with the garden and everything, the family garden and so forth. Um, why don't you explain to the readers, to our audience there, about how important community has been? Why did you take up that particular theme in your books in this series?
Right. So when I was growing up, I didn't have a lot of community around me. My parents were immigrants. We moved around a lot. So we were always like in a new community, and they were our whole family was very isolated. So I knew what it felt like to grow up without community, where you're just sort of by yourself. And so when I had kids, or actually when I was younger, I always read these books about people that had community, or, big families, or living in New York City. And it felt like a very different place from where I was growing up in the suburbs of California. So when I had kids, it was important to me that we felt very integrated into the community. And I feel like, we live in Harlem, which is where the Vanderbeekers live. And I feel like Harlem is a really great place because people do still just hang out on stoops and, on the corners of streets and talk. And it's a really nice place to experience community. Like my kids, they know all the dogs in the neighborhood, all the names. We never know the owners' names, but we know all the dogs' names. The crossing guard has been a part of our life for, ever since we've been here for 10 years. And she knows everyone in the neighborhood. Like when buses go by, she she knows everyone's name. I mean, it's really amazing. And I feel like it's important for everyone, and especially kids, to know that they belong somewhere and feel like they're rooted somewhere. And I really tried to build that into the books because I see how important that is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, authors, and have you guys been going around making your school visits or going to conferences and so forth? What have you found to be what have you found to be most heartwarming or memorable about fans responding to your works? What is it that you cherish, or statements that have been made, or um, what is it that just really keeps you pumped up when in talking to readers and talking to your fans and interacting with them?
Is it me again?
The next time I'll switch up.
Well, it's interesting because I was talking to the host at the beginning of this, and it's been 9 years since my last book came out. And I did a school visit for Myrtle this spring, where I was talking to kids who had not been born when my first book came out. And so that was a little, it was strange to think that these are kids who have never lived in a world without my books. So that was a strange sort of, I mean, it's not like, not living in a world without Tolkien or Shakespeare, but it was still a little bit strange. I think a lot about the fan letters that I get. I got one recently from a woman who is taking care of her elderly mother at home, and she had found my books Star-Crossed and Liar's Moon, and said that they took her away from that place of stress and drama and constant alertness, and took her into another realm and another place of thought. And that was really, that one stands out in my mind because my husband and I did elder care here in our home for some time. And I know what that was like, and I know what it was like to read those and to have those moments where you're somewhere else. And so, when we write kids, like we talk about windows and mirrors and books that either show the reader something new or books that reflect their own life. And I was always a windows reader, and I'm probably also now a windows writer with the sort of the fantasy and historical fiction that I do. And so it was really amazing to hear from somebody who found that window into just another experience for as brief as it was, and that it had touched her and it was valuable to her enough that she reached out to me to tell me about it. Those things, those connections, you send your books out into the world and you don't really know how they're going to be, and then you hear something like that, and it reminds you that what we do is important and why we do it well.
All right. Court?
I think that's all so very, very true. I have two things that come immediately to mind. But to start with, it is for maybe y'all feel this way too, but like when somebody says, "How do you feel about your fans?" I'm always like, "Oh my God." It's so strange to live in a world where I've fans, because like right now I have a plumber at my house, and I'm getting my truck service. Like, no kidding. I was like, I need to pay you right now because I'm going online.
And your cat is taking a bath in the
exactly. Exactly. And so it's just, that is strange in and of itself. But what's not strange is because whether you're a writer or whatever you do in your life, you have the opportunity to make impact. And that's kind of one of the things I just happen to do it with words most of the time, but probably the two things that I think of is not long ago, it was during the pandemic, and somebody in my apartment building ordered a pizza. And I was sitting out on the balcony with the two children who live in my house, and the pizza boy goes, "Oh my God, you're Court Stevens! You came to my school!" and like the two children that live in my house were like kind of horrified, but also kind of like, "That was cool." And they're like, "He knows you." And so I, of course, I wasn't the person who ordered the pizza, but I signed a copy of June Boys for him and tossed it off my balcony to him. And I was like, "That's
so nice."
And so that was fun. And so that's kind of a lighthearted one. I think the most serious thing that I think when I think about impact is after Faking Normal came out, and it's really about what do you do with these big secrets that you have in your life? And when you have trusted people, you could tell them to, but it's so hard as a kid to know what secrets are shareable and what aren't. Like, what am I going to get in trouble for? What's going to change my life? What's going to change the dynamic of our entire family if I share this thing? And so I kind of knew that people were going to respond in that vein, that they were going to tell me their secrets. And it happened. Like they wrote me and emailed me all kinds of very, very personal things that I feel very sacred that I got to be part of. But when I was doing school visits in Texas, I was telling these stories, and there's a whole line of kids that came up afterward. And a lot of times, you talk about hug machine. I was like the hug machine on that trip. And a lot of times they were just LGBTQ IA kids who were saying they'd had this, realization about who they really were and had found the strength to tell their parents because they read Faking Normal. And lots of times they were young men, and they sobbed all over my sweatshirts. I just held all these young boys who cried on me. And I came home from that trip, and I was putting my laundry away, and every shirt I had snot on it. And I realized that I needed to write those kids a love letter. And so I turned around and I wrote dress codes for small towns just for those kids who are like, I don't know what it's like to have permission to be me, in a place that says you are this rather than that. And so I think that's probably my biggest like interaction that has changed my life, having the courage for me to actually look at things and be like, okay, I can tell this story and I know what this feels like.
Thanks, Court. Karina.
Like Court, it's weird to think that you have fans, and it's something like I never really think about. It does, we're just like normal people going through the world, and then just people read what we write.
We're
and
not even normal people. We're like,
we're abnormal people.
yeah, we're
Yeah, no, that's true.
those people.
Yeah, so what has been really great for me is just seeing a lot of families reading Vanderbeekers out loud, and sharing that. And I got a message the other day on Instagram from a mother who said that her son was diagnosed with autism, and the only books he would read were Minecraft books. And they're very supportive of that, like as long as he was listening to things. And so they were playing audiobooks, and that Vanderbeekers was like the first book that was like a non-Minecraft book that he really loved. And that just made me really happy because my kids also like Minecraft, but I hope that they like my books more than the Minecraft books. But yeah, things like that. And yeah, so it's funny because I don't really think of myself as, I just think of myself as like a mom or someone who writes or someone who cooks. And the other day I was walking my dog, and we live in a big building with lots of units in it. And one of my neighbors was in the elevator, and I got in the elevator, and he looks at me and he says, "The writer is walking her dog." I was like, what? So it's funny because I don't think of other people in my building thinking of me as a writer, but I guess some people do. Like that guy. Anyways.
Well, all right. Well, go out of order here for a minute.
What?
Court, I have a special question for you.
Okay.
A special question for each one of you. But
Bring
Court,
it.
Your special question is how you incorporate a special feature in your book throughout the book called the Elizabeth Letters.
Yes.
The Elizabeth Letters. And you do it in such a unique way, and it helps to tell a certain aspect of the story, or a certain aspect of a character of the story. Why don't you share that with our audience, please?
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you so much for reading our books. You're so knowledgeable. And like, I never expect a moderator to have actually read my book. Or for an audience member for that. Like lots of times people start with an apology. "I'm so sorry, I haven't read your book yet." And I'm like, it's okay. I'll hug you anyway. I never expect you to have read. And I'm just delighted that I get the opportunity to introduce you to a possibility of reading. And if not me, somebody else. These two ladies right here, they know what they're doing. I've read both of them. And this is fantastic, And so, the Elizabeth Letters. So June Boys is told from 2 points of view. One point of view is the young lady I told you about earlier, who is very concerned that her father is the Gemini thief. The other is from her cousin Aulus's point of view, and he is the young man who has been taken by the Gemini thief. And so he is writing throughout the novel, so it's epistolary in some way, a series of letters from captivity about their experience, because he's in there with 3 other young men. And they're out of the one thing that helps to know in advance is they are out of sync of timeline. So the book takes place over about 6 weeks. Oh, Siri doesn't understand. She just told me. I know Siri. It took me a while as well. But like the book takes place over 6 weeks, but the letters only take place over the last 3 days of the young men's captivity. And so we pick up with them on the day they run out of water and the Gemini thief has not come back. And so you're not quite sure why the people that are down there, because you also are encountering another one of them in the other part of the narrative. And so hopefully you're thinking, is this real, or does he also get taken? And how will they get out, if they will get out?
Okay, yeah, I can see why that might have been challenging to create all those as you were writing them.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing.
But there's a specialness behind it. There's a special reason you use the word Elizabeth.
That is accurate. Did you? Do you want me to give it away? Or no, they don't want me to give it away.
No, because I'm going to read it right after the discussion.
There's a very special reason and a real life situation.
Yes,
for the
that
name
is true.
Elizabeth.
That is true.
We'll
and I
leave it
mean,
at that. We'll leave it at
so
that.
that's a question that you're also asking. Who is Elizabeth?
Well, I'm not going to answer that question.
No.
Jeanette, don't say anything.
Because I don't want to give it away. But I want to thank you for the comment about, reading your books. Yes, I read everybody's books. I felt that's what I needed to do to make this, to get more information out to the readers and then some clarification for myself. So yes, it was just a pleasure to do that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeanette.
Yes. Well, now with Elizabeth, I noticed with your book, the beginning of every chapter, you have this quote from the Hardcastle Book of Detection. Share with our audience why you use that particular technique in your writing.
So first of all, a word to aspiring authors who are thinking of doing something clever with their books. If what you start out writing then becomes a series, you will then have to continue with this convention in future books. And so yes, each chapter in Premeditated Myrtle begins with an epigraph from Principles of Detection by H.M. Hardcastle, the manual for aspiring investigators that Myrtle is writing. And I don't ever see Myrtle working on this book in the text of the actual story itself. But it just sort of came to me as a way to help her get into the story and to just sort of celebrate her love of forensics and it was really fun to come up with those quotes and to be able to introduce some forensic concepts and legal concepts to my readers in a way that hopefully is a little bit enlightening and a little bit fun. And so the books have like lots of legal Latin terms, and sometimes Myrtle translates them for the reader and sometimes she doesn't. And so the epigraphs are a way to sort of help bring the reader into Myrtle's mind a little more and to put them on a more even footing with her, maybe in terms of their knowledge of the sort of specialized field that she's so fascinated with. Now, in book 2, we have Hardcastle's Practical Travel Companion, which is her guide to how to travel at the end of the 19th century, and that one was really fun because I got to pull in all her favorite crime scenes from around England, and all the places, of course, that Myrtle would love to go visit, that she's not actually visiting on her trip. So that has been fun. And I will say that sometimes those epigraphs are the hardest part of any chapter to it was like chapter 26, title and epigraph, and then we'll come back to that later. But when I nail them, they're such a delight for me as a writer, so I hope the readers enjoy them as well.
Well, what I will say is that when I was reading the epigraph, it sort of gave me a feel for what might happen in this chapter. And then also, it has real life applications. Like, for instance, there's one for chapter 13 on premeditated murder. It says an investigator must piece together the facts of a crime, step by step and bit by bit, until the evidence reveals the truth. That can be applied to so many different disciplines. And that's what I really liked about these epigrams. It was just not forensics. It was other disciplines that it could be applied to, problem solving, and so on and so forth. Talking about problem solving, like Karina, that's what I think the Vanderbeekers were really great at, was problem solving. And sometimes the manner in which they try to solve a problem backfire on them. But the point is, they would come together to solve a problem. Share with the readers why you took this particular approach, because it got to be a whole family, from little Lainey, who was only like 6 years old, to the twins and the twin girls, and so forth. Why did you have so everybody involved over that age range and so forth?
Right. Okay. So I don't remember exactly what their ages in that book. I think Lainey was at 6, right? And then so that makes the twins 14.
14.
Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. I'd be so bad at those battle the books things. I'd lose. So I think what's interesting with writing in the way that I wrote, which was omniscient narrator, basically. So it's third person omniscient, which means that everyone's talking in the third person, but the narrator, who's I guess me, is also showing you things that maybe you wouldn't have seen if you were just strictly through third person. A lot of people have said, like, wow, that sounds really challenging, but I think it's actually, for me at least, everyone has their own ways of writing, obviously, and what's comfortable for them. And what I liked about writing from 5 different perspectives was that you can approach a problem from 5 different ways. And whenever I took on a new character, I could sort of try to put myself in their shoes and see what they're seeing. So a 6-year-old would see a problem very differently than a 14-year-old. And also based on their personalities, they would also look at a problem differently. So it was sort of interesting to write it that way, because as Elizabeth said, like, once you start writing in a certain way and it becomes a series, then you have to write it like that the whole time. So when I started with the first book, writing in that way, it sort of had to carry it over to all the books. So, but I actually really like it because I think it's interesting to see things from different perspectives. And when you're looking at one person's perspective, you're only looking through that person's perspective. You can't sort of switch to another person and say, well, that person also thought this. And I like that, because then the reader can also fill in the gaps. If Lainey, the 6-year-old, is seeing it this way, then they can sort of fill in the gaps to, like, what is actually happening versus what she's seeing versus what, the 14-year-old is seeing. So yeah, it's been really interesting to write in that way.
Well, all right. Here's a final question I wanted to share with you. Wanted to ask all of you guys. And Court, you're the one who got this started.
Uh-oh.
About 7 months ago, you came to the Public Library Association conference.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, okay. Anyway, you were quoted as saying the following:
Uh-oh.
"Reading is a collaboration of our imaginations. Whether you're reading for entertainment or answers, I hope you understand your existence in this world makes my world better. Now," it goes on to say, "now, go be kind, loving, revolutionary humans who change the world." I wanted to get everybody's. Oh yes, that was our chorus.
That's lovely.
Yes, I wanted to get your reflections on that statement. Reading is a collaboration, and whether of our imaginations, whether you're reading for entertainment or answers, you this all pertains to our theme of this session, the whole wide world.
Mm-hmm.
Your existence in this world makes my world better.
Yeah.
Some responses to that.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, you know, I think there's always a unique collaboration between the writer and the reader because every reader comes to every book with their own stakes. And there's books I've read at different time periods in my life that meant one thing here and then another thing over here. And so when I talk about that collaboration, I'm talking about meeting in the common ground of our life growth. And so I think that I'm trying to put something into the world that might matter. And then I think there are people that come to it and they're like, yeah, that was a fun mystery. Woo! And that's amazing. That's a collaboration. I love to read for entertainment. And I don't think that we all have to be so deep in meaning all the time that nothing is fun. And I think there's a possibility to do something that's totally fun and also incredibly meaningful. Like I look at Trevor Noah's book. He's a comedian, but Born a Crime it's hilarious. I laughed like crazy, but I also could feel the meaning in it. And I would feel that meaning maybe differently at different time periods in the world. And so I could feel him collaborating with me. And I hope that, I'm definitely no Trevor Noah in any means, but I hope that whatever it is I put out there, it has that opportunity. It creates that ground for people to come and us to get to know each other in a unique way. And so I just always want people to have the freedom to get out of whatever book they want to, what they want to. I tell people all the time, we've unfortunately mistaken two questions for the same question, and especially in a world with social media and so much accessibility to response. But did you like it, and is it good, are not the same question.
Okay.
And we use them like that a lot. And so I'm trying, something can be totally bad and I can love it. Sharknado. So you said, yeah, and that's okay because it's here for entertainment. And I think we need to remember that entertainment is part of the package of what we provide as well. And then I hope deeper meaning, but entertainment is its own meaning and its own escapism. And I love it for that too.
Well, okay, we have 5 minutes.
The entertainment might be the door.
Right.
To bring someone in order to share something maybe they needed to hear at that moment or so many levels there are to our craft and this world of bookmaking and reading.
All right, authors, any closing thoughts you want to leave for the audience regarding the whole wide world, our theme?
It was such an honor to be here with all of you.
Yeah,
I feel the same way.
I wish I could get a hug from
I know.
I
hope you all. I will. Can I just say a huge shout out to Parnassus Books? and all the independent bookstores out there right now that are just, I mean, they're making it. And if you guys have the ability to support them, whether you buy our books or somebody else's or Hug Machine, go out there and order from your local independents if you can, especially my favorite Parnassus, who's helping out with this event.
Well, thank you very much, because they've been a very strong supporter for a long time. Yes.
Yeah, we should say thanks to Serenity too. Serenity.
Yes.
Thank you, Serenity.
Thank you.
And everybody at Humanities Tennessee. You guys are amazing. We appreciate you.
Karina, you have any final thoughts?
Oh, no. I mean, they both already said everything so beautifully. So, yes, I love Parnassus. I was there the last 2 tours I did, and I just adore them. I think they're great. Also, if you are into audiobooks, you can download libro.fm and you can support your local indie through those purchases of audiobooks. And my subscription I sent to Parnassus because I love them.
Oh, that's awesome.
Well, Elizabeth, Court, Karina, this has been wonderful.
Thank you, Jeanette, so much for your wonderful questions.
Yes.
And
Terrific.
I just want to thank you for being part of the Southern Festival of Books. I want to also thank, once again, our key sponsors, Humanities Tennessee, Vanderbilt University, Parnassus Books, other people who have been very instrumental in making sure that we have the Southern Festival of Books this year. Just want to encourage readers out there, the audience out there, to purchase the books, be supportive in some way or another, give it to a child for a gift or something like that. They make wonderful gifts and so forth, and just think in terms of keeping the word alive, just keeping the word alive.
Yeah.
But just thank everybody for participating. Oh, and I'm sorry, I left off the Metro Natural Arts Commission and Ingram Content Group and the Tennessee Arts Commission. I want to make sure all our key sponsors are covered. But once again, authors, just thank you so much for sharing your time, your talents with us. Hopefully something was said that would just energize some readers out there to explore certain areas for entertainment or answers, whatever the case might be. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you for today.